Hey nerds, and welcome to another video from Nerd Since 86. I am Kyle, and in this video I'll be talking about 2004's famous superhero movie Catwoman, starring Halle Berry. So, I've wanted to watch this film for a while, and I'll tell you why. I've always been curious about this film, particularly the last couple of years, the last 18 months in particular. I've just been so curious about this film that just everyone doesn't really talk about. And I'd always heard it was bad. And so I thought, well, I've got to watch it. Because I need to take it off my list of superhero movies. I'm a big fan of Batman. So how bad can Catwoman be? Now, when this film came out, I would have been about 18 or thereabouts. I remember not seeing it in the cinema because I wasn't sure it looked any good. I remember seeing reviews, and I mean the film was getting slated, so I think I stayed away from it for that reason. I know Halle Berry has won an award for a worst performance, and Halle Berry is an Oscar-winning actress, so I had to watch this film eventually, but I was never going to pay big money to watch it. So you can actually pick up Catwoman for really cheap on DVD now. I haven't got the Blu-ray version; I got the DVD version, and so I picked that up. I bought that very recently and thought, I'm going to have to talk about this on Nerd Since 86. So let's talk about the film. First off, it's got, I think, a 3.4 on Imdb, which again, I know that Imdb and any other platforms where fans can put ratings into it and reviews, I know that it's there to be tanked. But I think a lot of probably the ratings for this Catwoman one are probably quite accurate, because before people started using those sites to try and tank the audience scores and stuff for things, this show was scoring really low anyway. So I don't think there's any sort of scheming going on behind the scenes to destroy the score. But yeah, it's carrying a 3.4, which isn't great. Now, I'm going to tell you something. The first 10 or 20 minutes of this film, I was kind of into them. It feels like a 2004 film. You know, superhero films have come so far since then. But this has that vibe of other films from around that time. So Spider-Man had already come out in 2002, I think. I think Spider-Man 2 had come out the same year in 2004. We've seen The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen coming out around then. The Hulk film. Daredevil, which didn't really latch onto audiences. So we were seeing lots of films trying to cash in on that Spider-Man. And because Spider-Man was a new property for cinema, so to speak, other ones were coming out. And so for some reason, Warner Brothers thought let's do a Catwoman film. But let's not use Selina Kyle. Let's not use the Catwoman that everyone's aware of. Let's use a completely different character called Patience Phillips, played by Halle Berry, who was a huge name at the time. This was a big get to get Halle Berry for the part. I guess they were hoping her name was going to pull more people in to watch it as well. But I don't think you need to worry about that with Catwoman. I think if you're doing Selina Kyle and Catwoman, I think you can just go off of it being Catwoman. The brand name's really strong there. Apparently this film had been in development for years and years, so far back that they'd wanted Michelle Pfeiffer, who played Catwoman in Batman Returns. They were asking her to come and do the film, but she passed on it for various reasons. One to do, I think, with the costume not being very comfortable, and she was worried about being in the same situation, which I think Halle Berry was as well. I think the costume was a real problem for Halle Berry in this film. I'm not even sure she got into it in some cases, to be honest, but hey ho. But yeah, the first 10-20 minutes of this film, before it all gets a bit supernatural and things, I was really digging it actually. And I was really into it. The main thing is that it felt a bit more real then. Things take a turn. So Catwoman isn't just a thief in this and taking jewellery and things like that and a bit of an anti-hero. She actually has cat powers. There's a moment where Patience Phillips dies, and it's a glorious scene where all these cats descend on her body, and then she comes back to life because of the cat called Midnight, who's been there through most of mankind's history, making Catwoman. Gives her the power, checks that that he trusts her with the power, or she. I'm not sure if Midnight was a boy or a girl. But she comes back, and there's this amazing sequence with all these cats walking up to her, and she gets the power, she wakes up, and now she's like a cat. She eats tuna, lots of tuna. I mean, it's quite funny when she wakes up in different places and random places in her apartment, because it's kind of capturing that idea that cats will sleep anywhere and in weird places. But the tuna thing was one step too far. But yeah, she has like weird cat abilities. Now I can kind of get why they did that, because they probably felt back then in 2004, or I guess they were filming this in 2003 maybe, they probably thought that she had to have powers. The audience will need her to have powers. She can't just be a good fighter. She needs to have actual cat powers. But I'm not sure it really works, because Halle Berry was actually doing a really good job in the film until she had to play a cat. A cat. And the problem with Halle Berry, and this is it's a compliment though, is I think Halle Berry, when she's playing like normal characters, I think Halle Berry is fantastic. And that's why I think she's good in the first 10-20 minutes of this film, when she's just playing Patience Phillips as just this ragged, unkempt woman, not in control of her life at all. And I thought she did really well there, and I think that's why she has Oscars. An Oscar. I should say just one. But once she has to start hamming it up, and the cheese factor, it doesn't work in the same way that I struggle with it with Storm, who she plays in the X-Men movies. Yeah, it's at that point where you start thinking, when she becomes Catwoman, it's at that point you start thinking, okay, this is a popcorn flick. I'm not planning to leave this film with any profound opinions. Let's just enjoy it for what it is. She's got a good cast around her. Benjamin Bratt, who I know from 24 and things like that. Sharon Stone plays our main villain. You'll see people from loads of like genre stuff around that time as well. There's a few appearances from some Stargate Atlantis alumni, so you can spot them. See if you can spot them. Yes, there's a lot of faces in this one, but the hamming up of Catwoman once she becomes Catwoman, it's not great. It's not great. But just take it for what it is. A one-off superhero film that never spawned a sequel, never became a franchise or anything. So what was the best sequence in the film? Well, it actually came in that first 10-20 minute period that I was talking about earlier. There's a moment where Midnight the cat is testing Patience. And for some reason, Patience sees the cat outside the window in an apartment building. She's high up, like 4th floor, I think. And she decides to climb out of her window to get the cat. Now, I know people say on the surface, why would she even do that? I was even thinking that at the time. But I also remember that I did a very similar thing when I was a child, when I saw my cat up a really high tree. And I climbed the tree to help my cat, and the cat just jumped down. Didn't even hurt him, just jumped down. They always land on their feet, and he was gone, and I was stuck up a tree. I was stuck up there in a woodland area. The difference, Patience. I was a child. You were an actual woman, probably late 20s, early 30s. So, no excuse, really. The cat is luring her out to test her, really, and see, I guess, if she's heroic and brave. This is where Benjamin Bratt's character comes in. He's a police officer or detective. Thinks that she's trying to kill herself, tries to talk her down, a bit of a miscommunication because Midnight has disappeared. So there's no proof to her, for her, that she's not trying to kill herself. An aircon unit she's standing on is falling. It's just a really cool sequence, actually, which stands out in the film for me. And I really enjoyed it. So for me, that was my favourite favourite sequence in the whole film. Best character in the film was probably Patience Phillips, who is Catwoman in this, but pre-becoming Catwoman. I thought once she was Catwoman, she changed, a different character then. Before that, I thought she was my favourite character in the whole thing. And also her friend, who is actually the voice of Lois in Family Guy, she's in the film, and she has some great moments as well. But Patience was definitely the best character, and I really liked what Halle Berry was doing with her. And when Halle Berry kind of returns to that character in a scene later in the movie when she's in an interrogation room at the prison or the police station, whatever they might call it in America, she's more stripped back again, which is what I said is when Halle Berry does her best work. So for me, Patience Phillips was the best character in the film. I'm not sure if that's glowing praise, but we'll take it. Every superhero film is almost determined for its quality based on the villain. Not always true, but a lot of the time it's true. And in this one, Sharon Stone becomes our main villain. She didn't have any superpowers in the sense that she wasn't a great fighter. She didn't become a great fighter as soon as she got her powers and all these things. She just had been taking so much of this evil beauty product that she couldn't feel anything anymore. So she was getting beaten up, but she couldn't feel it. If you're fighting someone and they can't feel everything you're throwing at them, then eventually they're gonna be able to overtake the fight. You know, it's going to turn in their favor because you're exhausting yourself. And we see that in this film. Sharon Stone was okay as her. I mean, Sharon Stone at this point in her life didn't even look like she'd aged in a very long time. Just looks exactly the same as earlier films. The problem I had with it was that during the film, Patience, once she becomes Catwoman, starts doing things for her because Sharon Stone's character is thrown off the scent. But we as the audience already knew that she was the villain from very early in the film. It just made Patience Phillips look a bit stupid throughout, because there was no big twist when Catwoman finds out the truth. So for me, that was a little bit of a disappointment. I guess that they wanted that big reveal earlier in the film, but I would have saved it for later. I would personally would have saved it so that when Catwoman finds out who the true villain of the piece is, we find out as well. Just have a little bit of a twist there, because it was kind of like, oh, finally she knows now. All right, let's get the fight done. I want to be like, oh damn, oh damn it, she's the bad guy. That would have been cool. I would have liked that anyway. Okay, so I'm going to have to come back to the cat powers thing, because I still can't get over it. She had cat powers. I'm not sure why this had any real link to Catwoman. They didn't use Selena Kyle. There was no mention of Gotham City. We don't know where this film took place. No mention of Bruce Wayne, Batman. It almost exists in its own universe. I guess, going by what we're seeing with the new Flash movie coming up and what the Arrowverse has done, though we know it does take place on some Earth in its own universe. But there's nothing that links it to the existing Batman content at the time. Batman Begins came out, I think, a year after this. So the idea that there was going to be any kind of connection between those films is hard to get my head around, but because tonally it's just completely different. And they would have been in pre-production on Batman Begins, I would assume, when this film was being wrapped up. So I don't know how they would have brought them together if they ever planned to. You do see a little mention of Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman in the film, which might suggest that this is a continuation in a sense and linked that way. But I'd have to go with an alternate Earth thing, because we just never saw Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman with the abilities that we see Patience Phillips with. So I'm going to go with the idea that it's on an alternate Earth. We'll call it Earth 2004, based on the year the film came out. Let's go with that. I'm not sure how I would score this film. I don't like scoring things generally anyway, but a film that I think if you're a completist and you want to see as many superhero films as possible, I think you should watch it. It's not even as good as maybe the worst Marvel movie. It's a film you've got to see. If you're watching this video and thinking, oh, some of that sounds really naff, cat powers, Halle Berry hamming it up, just watch it, see it for yourself. I knew what I was walking into. Don't walk into it expecting a great film. I don't know if it's a bad film. It's not something you can base your life around, is how I would describe this film. Don't build your whole night around it. Don't think, oh, you know what, let's have dinner tonight. In my case, let's get the kids to bed. Let's have some dinner. But get some wine, get some beers, or soft drinks if you only drink soft drinks. And let's watch Catwoman. Let's just make our night about Catwoman. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because it will not be a very fulfilling night for you. But everything you watch on TV or on stage or in the cinema is very much based on the experience you build around it, and that affects your enjoyment of it. So maybe that would help for you. But I would take it off your list by watching it, but I certainly would not make it a priority in your life. But I think you got to see it to believe some of the stuff in it. It's good. I didn't look at my phone once during it, which is hard to believe because I'm easily distracted with things like that. But I actually watched the film the whole way through. But I was laughing at it sometimes with it. I should probably talk about the choreography of the fights. It was a bit too OTT. The director had done some music video stuff, I think, as well. I did a quick look at him. Some of the fights just felt like they were dance choreography. It didn't make any sense to me. Didn't feel the threat of the fights, the danger. The only time I really felt it was the final fight at the end of the film. And there's ones earlier in it which just are over choreographed and don't feel real at all. I guess they've gone for a visual style that influenced that choreography, but it just didn't work for me. So yeah, that's Catwoman. Go watch it, and don't kill me if you hate it. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Catwoman 2004. A thumbs up? Was it a thumbs down? I imagine we're going to see some of that, but maybe some of you will enjoy it. If you haven't seen it, please go check it out, and I look forward to talking to you all in the comments.